Yes, so we are so excited to be here. My name is Wahu Wanjiku, and what? I am 31. I don't know how necessary that is, but I am 31. And what? I am everything sunshine. I love people. I love the adventure of life. I totally just enjoy the ocean. Like, don't take me on mountains or hikes. Those are not my kind of things. I want to travel at least 50 countries before I die. I know I will travel more, but I want to do at least 50 countries. And I am a mother, okay? I am a mother to a sometimes stubborn young man. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Okay, my name is Eugene. I am 3 months away from becoming 16 years old officially.
I didn't even know that.
So,
okay.
My hobbies are like I play rugby, I do public speaking at points, and future dreams, I would like to become a lawyer. Yeah, and
people.
Yes, that's all about me.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
So today we'll be talking about our life story, the journey from where it all began to here.
To here.
Yes, so we'll give you a piece of our lives.
Yes. We're going to be talking, about our journey, and we're going to begin from where ours began, like from where he was born. Because me, I began it a little earlier, but we're beginning from where he joined my journey in life. And we're really excited to be sharing this with you.
So you guys already know our ages. So like if you do the math, you could tell my mom gave birth to me at a very, very young age. Yeah. I think she was my age when she gave birth to me.
It's insane, right?
Yeah. So, so mom, how did you get like pregnant at the age of 15?
You are asking as if you think it's impossible to get pregnant at the age of...
Okay, it is. I know it is. So we just want to hear your part of it.
Like how did it happen?
Yes.
So yes, it's true. I was pregnant at the age of 15, and he was actually born when I was 16. You know that you've said that 3 months to 16. Now, when I was turning 16, man said a baby was being born. Anyway, this whole person was being born. Anyway, I grew up in church. For those who know me know that I'm a church girl, and I got saved, I think, at the age of 10. That is when like I made the decision to follow Jesus, and I have been a church girl. I loved God, but since when I was in Sunday school, I started singing in the choir at 10, and I used to sing with adults. You don't know life. I used to sing with adults, and I knew that I wanted to serve God the rest of my life. But life happens. Anyway, when I was in Form 2 is when I got pregnant. But let me take you back a little. I studied at Nakel Primary School. It's a public school here at Rungai. And I am a second born in a family of 4. Like I have 3 brothers, 1 older than me, and then there is myself, and then there are 2 younger ones. And then we grew up with my mom only. And I can say we had a pretty decent life. Ups and downs, we had some difficulties, but compared to our neighborhood, we grew up in a slum, but compared to our neighborhoods in that slum, we were considered to be the ones living the good life. But it is not as good when I think about it right now, but it was pretty decent. However, I finished class 8, and at that time, my mom had an accident that had not going to work. So she was bedridden for a while, which meant she could not sufficiently provide for us. And to be honest, when I was growing up as a child, as I told you, I was a church girl. I wanted to change, especially my environment. I wanted to be that girl who the people in my community would look up to and say, this is our very own. I wanted to be, a champion. All these things that the teachers had told us of, the proper girl. I wanted to be that. And I had done everything according to me to become that. And one of the things I was looking forward to doing a lot was high school. One, because high school meant I was going to go in a boarding school, live this life. I was going to have an experience to be able to see life in a different way. And so I finished KCP, which I did well, but my mom could not afford to take me to high school. Like, you know, the way you finish in December and then guys start reporting in school. Back then, people would report up till February. I know right now you report like January. Back then, you could report even in February. By the time January was fikaing, I realized my mom was not talking about school. So I kept wondering, wait, me, I did my part. I studied hard. What's going on? And one evening, I remember having a conversation with her, and I was like, hey, mom, people out here are, you know, uniform preparing, people are buying boxes, people are getting ready to go to high school, and it looks like they're doing nothing. And I remember that she didn't say much. And there was just that awkwardness and then eventually she told me, you're not doing all these things, and it's because me, I can't afford to do that. So I was like, what does that even mean? And I remember her telling me, I don't know what that means. I don't know if you're going to go to school or not. And I remember this day, and this day is significant because I didn't sleep that night. I cried all night because I couldn't believe that I have worked hard past, and now I'm going to be one of those people who don't go to high school. And I remember going to God, you know, and asking him why. Because as I told you, I was born again. When guys were in school eating lunch, me, I used to spend that time at lunch hours praying. And I believed that because I was, you know, praying, because I was doing everything I thought was right, then God was going to answer my prayers. But here I was, and it looks like my biggest dream of life was being crushed right in front of my eyes. And I was devastated. And so after that, we never talked about school again because, as I told you, my mom was just at home. She wasn't going to work. Even just providing for, you know, daily meals was a real struggle. And my brother is older than me, maybe 3 years. So he was in high school, at day school. And even for himself, school fees ilikuwa ni drama. And he had to do business for himself, sell shoes, you know, go to Gikomba, do stuff, so that to afford his own fare to school, he was in a day school, and to be able to just keep his life going. So January passed, February, no school, March. Now, during that time, before, I would go to lunch hour in church every day to pray. But something happened, and I think I was beginning to give up on God. And I stopped going. Like, I just stopped going to those lunch hours. And I would spend my day in the house. I would do the normal chores. And then I loved to read novels. And why I loved to read novels is because, you know, novels allowed me to, like, escape and go into this world that, you know, a world of fantasies. And that is when Kwanzaa I began reading, you know, these romantic novels where they have, you're laughing, they have a happy ending, and I would read them, like really read them. And then we didn't even have electricity, you should know that. So I would read at night with a lamp. He has no idea maybe even what a lamp looks like. But with that lamp, the mafuta, with my novels, and I would spend a lot of time doing that. And then one day, you asked how this happened. One day, I am left alone. My mom now had gone to look for something to do. I was at home. Now, our home did not have a fence. You know, it's like, ukifungua mlango, the whole world can see you. So I would read hapo nje. So one of these days, I finish my chores, and then I sit down and I start reading my novels. As I'm reading my novels, I think it must have been in February. I had someone on the other side scream, "Happy Valentine's!" And of course I was like, okay, it can't be me. That person can't be talking to me. But I was like, you know, I looked around, and then I saw this guy with a flower, like, you know, those flowers holding it up. And I was like, okay. So I was like, is it for me? And then I realized that, yeah, it's for me. So I was like, how are you? And I recognized the person because they were my neighbors, though we had initially never spoken. You should know that even though I grew up in this environment, my mom was a lioness. We were not allowed to speak to anybody. So, although I knew this person for so many years, I had never even said hi to them. They had never said hi to me because, I mean, my mother, everyone knew her. You don't talk to her children, and as children, we don't talk to anyone. So he talks to me, and I'm like, okay. I said hi back. And he was like, what are you reading? And I was like, I just waved the book, the novel. And the guy was like, by the way, I see you every day sitting there reading novels. You should know that I also love to read. Maybe one of these days we should exchange. Nini, nini. And back in the day, if you remember, of course we couldn't afford novels. So what we used to do, unasoma. Ukimaliza kusoma, nakupatia wewe unanipatia yenye unasoma. You know, we would like exchange. So I was like, this sounds like a good deal. I have found someone we can be exchanging. Cut the long story short. This guy, yeah, in hindsight you should know, he happened to be his dad's brother. His dad, actually not just his dad's brother, his dad's twin brother. So we began a friendship there, where we would talk, akiwa their side of the home and my side, we would talk. And then one day, my mom sent me to the market. Now, their compound, if you used their compound, you would get to the markets easier. But of course, usually because we were not allowed to talk or interact with neighbors, I'd go around. But now since they had, we had this friendship going on, this day my mom tells me, and a so-called, bring burger and everything. I decided I'm going to walk through this compound and get there faster. As I was walking in, I met my friend, this guy who had given me a flower. And he was like, Unenda? I was like, I'm going to the shop, nini. And we finished the conversation. And I left him. But as I got to the other side of the gate, I met him again. But previously, he was in a short and t-shirt. He was just looking normal. But this time I meet him, like 2 minutes later, and he's all suited up and looking all, I was confused, guys. I was like, wait. And then I say hi to him, and he says hi to me as if he's not seen me. And I was like, but we met. And I was like, no, we've not met me, I'm from town. And I got so confused, and it is that moment that I realized, yeah, these are two people. And I remember going back and I was like, I was arguing with him, he's telling me it's not him. And then eventually his brother comes and I realized, oh my God, these were two people who look like each other, like they are identical, like wanafanana. Yeah. And so I wondered, I was like, who's my friend between the two of you? And none of them would tell me who is my friend. They kept claiming both of them are. And this was the genesis of our friendship with Eugene's dad. Now, Eugene's dad was the suited up guy in this conversation, not the one I left, so not the one who gave me a flower, the suited up guy. And I noticed something about him, that he was more calm and collected than the other one. I realized, I used to think before that maybe siku ingine anakuwa na moods, siku ingine anakuwa na side. Only to realize Kumbe had been talking to two different people. It's just that they have two different personalities. So one is very, he's a sanguine, and the other one is introverted. Eugene's dad was introverted. So, the friendship continues. We would just talk, not much. Whenever we would meet, we'd talk, exchanging novels. But I noticed that Eugene's dad developed a more keen interest in me. Unlike his brother, he would get more personal. He'd ask me for more personal questions. And one day, now towards March, he asked me, I thought you cleared class 8 just the other day. How come you've not gone to high school? And we talked about it. I told him, how my mom could not afford, blah, blah, blah. And to my surprise, he was like, what do you mean? I know a school. And this principal is a family friend, and we can introduce you. You are too smart, you're beautiful, you should be in school. And for a moment there, I remember the excitement of, oh my God, I'm going to get an opportunity to go to school. So I didn't even tell my mom, because he promised that he was going to talk to his family and this school, and he was going to get back to me. Cut the long story short, it's long. Eventually, he gets me into this school, by the way. It was a day school in town. So through his connections, I get to the school. All my mom had to do is buy me uniform. And it's strange that my mom never even asked too many questions about it. But anyway, I had begun school. At the time, he was in Form 4. So me, I'm joining Form 1, and the guy is in Form 4. So what would we do? Now, me, I had never been to town. Kwanza kwenda Nairobi peke yangu. So in the morning, we would walk together to school. He was in a different school, I was in a different school. And then in the evening, we would come back together. And I think that got us really close because, I mean, and then during lunchtime, he'd come and buy me chips. That was, and chips back in the day was a big deal. Don't even laugh. It was a really big deal. And yeah, so I continued to go to church on that front, but Sundays only. Now I stopped, choir singing. I stopped these lunch hours. I wasn't attending as much. And now I had found this friendship that, was giving me a lot more than I thought I would get. I am in school. Life is on top. And he had other friends that I got to know. But towards the end of that year, my mother noticed something about me. I had changed. From being the always praying girl, now I didn't look like I cared much about church. And she was a bit uncomfortable with my friendships. So, and at this point, she had her business had started kicking off. So she decided day school and going to Nairobi is not good for me. So she made the decision to take me to a boarding school. And you remember previously, boarding school was my dream. So I was so excited when she told me about it. And I was supposed to report in this new boarding school in January when I was now going to Form 2. And I remember telling now this friend who had now become my boyfriend, I remember going to him and telling him, hey, my mom is going to take me to this school. And he was excited for me. Now, I was supposed to report to school on the January 6th. Sawa? So, as I told you, my mom was still a lioness. I wasn't allowed to be out for too long. I mean, my moves were very monitored. So we go shopping, we prepare for going to school. And I remember it clearly because it was January the 5th. Yeah? I had not seen this boyfriend of mine, my knight in shining armor. I had not seen him for a long time because my mom had been there. And now I'm going to boarding school and I need to see him, for the last time before I go. So January 5th, we are reporting to school the following day. It's a busy day. My mom and I go shopping, we finish. And then Gioni, we noticed there's one thing we had not bought. So my mom is like, oh my God, we still need, because we were leaving the following morning very early. So she tells me, I'm giving you 15 minutes to go to the supermarket, buy and come back. It was in the evening around 4:30. And me, in my head, I thought 15 minutes. My moment to go past by, the guy's house, try see him and tell him, school is happening tomorrow. Yes, say goodbye. And 15 minutes it was. So I left the house running. And then I passed by the guy's house. And that day, usually they were his brothers were there, his friends. But that day, he was alone. So I find him and I'm like, okay, so I've not seen you, we've been busy. And he's like, okay, so when are you going to school? I told him I'm going to school tomorrow. And now when you're in love and you're young and you're like, no way, I can't not see you. Even for one day, I would die if I don't see you. And me, I'm there being like, oh my God, this guy loves me so much. And one thing led into another. And without a lot of, this is PG-18 and this one is not yet 18. So allow me not to get into the details for your sake. But I later went to supermarket, bought what I was buying, went home. But I remember going home and feeling so defiled, feeling so filthy and ugly, feeling like I had done something that I had promised myself I would never do. I remember feeling like I have failed myself. But because I was going tomorrow, I thought, tomorrow I'm going to go and I'm going to forget all about this and I'm going to be all about the things that I represent. And this day is going to be forgotten and scratched. Yeah. And truly, the following day, I went back to school. Now, I go back to school and I am committed. This is a chance God has given me. I feel like He has answered my prayer for a boarding school. I am committed to read hard, study hard, and be disciplined. And that is what I did. I studied hard. I was disciplined. I got the A's that were required. And then month 2, month 3 of school, I noticed that I wasn't having my periods. But to me, this was not a big deal because, when you're young and you begin having your periods, my boy is here like, oh my God, she's talking about periods. I'm sure he feels like disappearing right now, but yeah. So, but I wasn't surprised because this had happened to me before. Like my periods had disappeared, and then my mother had taken me to hospital, and they had said, "Oh, it's hormonal imbalances." That I was still growing up, so it was going to be okay. So even in this case, when they didn't come, I assumed the same is happening. So month 1, month 2, month 3, I even come back to holiday. In holiday, excited, and at this point, I honestly was serious when I said, me, I am done with that. I want to be a good girl. So I decide I am not going to see this boyfriend anymore. Me, I'm going to be a good girl, be everything my mother wants me to be, and also be everything God wants me to be. I even start going back to church. I'm attending Bible study. I'm attending lunch hour meetings. And, everything looks like now I am getting back on track. I remember towards the end of the term, Eugene's dad, the sister, was older than me, and we had become really good friends. So we had not seen each other for a while until Lydia. Yeah. We had not seen each other for a while, but we bumped into each other, and she was like, "Oh, how is boarding school? How is it going?" So we talked, those girly talks people talk about. And she was like, "Oh, what happened with you and my brother?" I was like, "Me, I'm done with that because, I want to pursue education. I want to be serious about this." But towards the end, I mentioned to her, I even told her, but I am also, before I went to school, I had this experience. Different things happened between me and him, and I really felt like I've crossed a boundary I did not want to cross. So I don't want to even meet him because I am just done with it. And when I mentioned that to her, she asked me, "Oh, and so, did anything else happen?" I was like, "No, nothing else happened. I'm fine." But I mentioned to her, strangely, I have not received my period since that time. But I told her not to worry. It was just normal for me. It happens. But it looks like she didn't believe what I said. And I promised her, I made her promise not to tell her brother that we have met. Okay? Which I thought she would. And school went back. Na mimi nikarudi shuleni. Excited to go and study and become everything I wanted to become. Long story cut short, 7 months later, I discover I am actually pregnant. So one of those evenings, during preps, you know how guys used to study in the evening? So I used to sit on a seat close to a window and, with my desky, and it's evening and we are studying. And then I felt something in me. And I did exactly what I've done. And I remember my desky asking me, are you okay? And because I didn't know how to explain to them, I told them that nimeona shadow ikipita kwa window. But it's not lie, because I didn't know what to say, and I knew that I hated darkness. But honestly, I had felt something kick in my stomach. It was this guy. So that day in the evening, after preps, I went into my room. Now, I was in Form 2. Unajua Form 2 biology book. Mumefika hapo by the way, mmeona?
Tuko bio.
Biology. Yeah. There is a lesson there on reproduction.
Yeah.
Mumefanya? Bas. I went to that biology book and I opened that reproduction and I was like, signs of and symptoms of pregnancy. I started to read. I was like, nausea. No, me, I've never been nauseated. I was like, vomiting. I was like, no. Nah. But I started to see there's how a fetus progresses. And I was like, oh my God. Something about when a baby starts to kick, it's like now they don't stop. It's like they keep getting excited. So this started to become frequent. And without a shadow of doubt at that point, I knew for sure that I was pregnant. This long story was to answer your question.
Yes.
What was the question again?
The question was how you got saved at the age of 10, which you explained, and how you got pregnant at the early age.
Have I answered you?
Yes.
Yes, that is how I got pregnant for him. And now tell me, unless you have any other questions.
Not at this moment.
What do you mean not at this moment? You must have questions.
Okay, you want more questions? Okay.